Welcome, Radiana. I'm so happy. Do I say that right? Radiana.
Yes,
How do you say your
radiant
name?
or radiator. No, radiant.
Ra-
Radiana is fine. Yes. I'm joking. Yeah.
So, welcome. I'm so excited. You're the first one as part of the Story to Mission Live here on LinkedIn. And we dive straight into, we had some technicality issues, but now we are here. So, I just want to know, who are you? Like, what do we need to know about you? Just start straight.
Well, thank you so much for the invite, first of all, Ulrike. This is so exciting. I am Radiana, as you mentioned, my name. Just yesterday, someone reached out to me on LinkedIn saying, your name represents what you do brilliantly, because I see that you're a happiness expert, and so you're radiating joy and happiness. And that's true. So I'm a happiness hacker. I am the founder of Hacking Happiness at Google that made 20,000 people 20% happier in just 1 hour. And I'm very
So
proud of
cool.
that, because that just kind of happened out of nowhere. Because at Google, I am a technical account manager, and I actually, well, you might say it was random, but I believe I really needed to hack my own happiness at times when imposter syndrome was really, through the roof. I have an MBA in organizational happiness, because after creating that initiative, slowly I realized that that's my passion. And now I'm on a challenge to make 1 million people happier. And that's why you see me posting a lot on LinkedIn around that. And I live in Portugal, Ericeira. That's why the surfboards, which are not mine, by the way, just.
So amazing. Not jealous at all.
But that's what we will talk about, right? How you design your life for this, because it didn't happen. I come from a very different background, so I made it happen for myself, I'd say.
Yeah, that's great. And I actually want to start with the first question. Something I ask myself sometimes. I think I have an answer for myself. Maybe everyone thinks differently about it, but is happiness a choice? I would love to know what you think about that.
Well, many people wait for it to happen naturally, and it does, right? So we have moments where we're happy, moments where we are joyful, or a little less. So it's ups and downs. But what I discovered is that it can be a choice. So you can definitely design your life for happiness. And so, what is happiness, right? So I think that's the first thing we need to understand. Science, well, obviously it's very subjective, right? So what makes me happy makes you, it's not what makes you happy as well. But science says, if we have to give it a definition, it's just two things. How good you feel right now, in this moment, like how good you feel in your life now, and how good you feel with your life overall. So do you feel like you're following your purpose? Like those two things. And I think once you know that, you can really say happiness is a choice, because you can decide to engage in small things that make you happy now. And we can talk about the happiness habits, but also just, that feeling when you wake up on Monday and you're excited about the week. That's part of it as well. So that's the bigger wow, the bigger satisfaction with your life. And the way I've designed happiness for me and for the people that I work with in general as a happiness coach is just there are 4 steps. So you can be like, just wait for it to happen. Or you can say, okay, now I want to design my life for more happiness. And you will also find that success follows. But so it's very important 4 steps: to know yourself now, to know your strengths, to know how to hack your happiness in the moment, as we said, to know the wow. So what's the best that can happen? Remember Alice in Wonderland, where Alice goes to the cat and says, which way should I take? And the cat says, where are you going? And she says, I don't know. And so the cat says, well, then anyway, will get you there. So that's how most people live their lives, without knowing they have a choice to direct their lives. So that's the second question, like, what's the wow? What's the best version of your life? So what's this purpose? Like, what excites you? It doesn't have to be that you have to figure it all out. It's just, okay, what's the next best exciting thing that I can do? And then the third step is believe you can bridge the gap from where you are now to this wow version that you just dreamed of. And the last, which people forget, the last step is just to ask for it. Keep asking, keep doing things every day that get you closer. I think it's as simple as that, and it works.
Yeah, I love it. I think also, I mean, maybe this is a bit of my next question, like in connection with this one. But I mean, I guess there's like happiness from outside coming to you, something great happens to you, right? And you're happy about that. But then life is not always great from the outside, especially. And if something happens, and you feel grief or you feel burnout, whatever is happening in your life, is there still a chance to be happy and like to find happiness even when the circumstances are not ideal?
Yeah, good one. Yes, but without forcing it. And what does that mean? So when I say I teach happiness, it's all about happiness, and you maybe see me all happy and, the truth is, and I think people can relate to the fact that if you think of your happiest friends, they probably had the biggest tragedies in their lives. And that is because I believe, and that's also backed by science, that the biggest your lowlights in life are, the biggest you appreciate the highlights, right? So while I'm saying you can find happiness in life no matter what, because life is life, it's full of ups and downs, it's very important to know that the goal here is not to feel happy at all times. It's really about feeling the full spectrum of emotions when tragedies occur. Not sugarcoating it, not just downplaying it, living it fully, live the emotions fully, get for help, take the time, ask for help, take the time to go through it all, because it's part of the human nature, and really just feel the roller coaster of emotions, because it's part of life, really. And then once you're ready, that is when I come and say, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not teaching you how to reduce misery and fix traumas. I'm really, okay, once you're now at a neutral point, how can we go to a +10? How can we get to more happiness in your life? And I think many people don't know that they can proactively do this. And many of us are stuck in a cycle of, okay, I need to protect myself, really in survival mode, always kind of preempting and just like being afraid of what's the next big challenge that can happen in my life. But no matter what, challenges will always happen. So the only way, and this comes from from psychology and how you overcome trauma, the only way to go past or to overcome tragedies, bad events, is to find meaning. To find meaning and to know that whatever happens to you comes for a reason. And of course, it's very hard to find a meaning when, something very, very bad happens. But the goal is to say, okay, how can I use this energy to maybe help others, to maybe avoid that it happens to other people? Or how can I make the most out of whatever is left? So it's really about meaning at the end, but without forcing it. Only when you feel you again are back to, afloat. So get the
Yeah.
help, but it's possible.
Yeah, I kind of have two thoughts, like what you mentioned earlier is there even real happiness without, bad things or challenging things happening in your life? Because when can you really truly like know what happiness is if you have it all the time, right? Maybe only
Yeah,
if it's taken away from you,
exactly.
maybe a short period of time, right? You kind of have this gratitude of like, yeah, I know what happiness is, and now I know what I want, like how I want to achieve it,
Yeah.
or like that I want it back, or whatever it is.
And that's exactly where science says the best way. You know how most of the happiness books start with asking you about your, I don't know, deathbed, or I don't really like that. I say, okay, about your 90th birthday. So think about your life just expiring. Now you're at the end. And now think, what are your regrets, and what are the things. So science really says negative visualization. So removing all of the great things in your life right now. So imagine you didn't have them. How would your life look like, so that you can appreciate them more without really losing them in reality, right? So exactly what you're saying. And we all know it, like we only appreciate what we had when we lose it. So science says, okay, don't wait for that, baby, but do this negative visualization to say, can it be, how could my life look like with all these amazing things that I take for granted? And then you kind of have a little wake up call to say, oof. And that's where gratitude comes into the picture. But you're right. So
Yeah.
and that's where I also say burnout. Like many people wait for burnout to wake up and to say, now it's time to take my life in my hands. Don't wait for burnout, because burnout literally burns a part of you, which never comes back. So do it before. The thing is, we don't learn this in school, right? So that's why it's a bit
Yeah.
tricky to know that we can actually do something about our happiness every day.
Yeah. I don't think in school they even want you to be happy. I mean, I'm talking about German school. I'm still so traumatized, I think, and still to this day, like I talk a lot. I have my Living Swedish channel. I talk about Sweden all the time, and happiness is part of my content. Actually, are you happier in Germany or are you happier in Sweden? But at the end of the day, it comes a lot to mindset and to your individual self. Like you cannot determine if you're happier, in Portugal or wherever. I mean, only when you know what you want, then it probably pays part of, your happiness. If you think like Portugal, because of XYZ reason, will contribute to your happiness, then it makes
Yeah.
sense to make that choice. But another thing I also wanted to say is the mission part. Because I also focus a lot on it, with people, with myself, because I think it helps to have a mission in life, and finding a mission is not easy either. But also, I think there's a little bit pressure on it. You have to have one mission in life and then dedicate your time. I think it's okay to have little missions, but missions also kind of keep you excited and I think happy as well. What do you think about that?
That's very, very good point. Yeah, happiness is subjective. So we don't know what makes us happy until we kind of try it, or we talk with someone who's experienced it or had the experience we wanted. And there's a lot of pressure to have it all figured out, right? What I also said earlier, it's really on. But I think the secret here is that clarity comes from action. So many people just sit and wait for the enlightenment, like Buddha under the tree, to know now what their purpose, their mission, their calling in life is. But that's not how it works. It might work for some people, but I think, look at me. I started from a very small city in Bulgaria. Then I went to Italy. Then I went to Germany, 12 years each country. I didn't know what I wanted. I studied business. Then I studied marketing. Then I ended up at Adidas. Amazing. Where I started working in tech without even studying tech, to then land in one of the techiest companies, Google. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm going to be a woman in tech. And now I'm teaching happiness. Like, who would have ever imagined, right? So, but how did that all happen? Just by following the next best step, just by keep moving instead of just stagnating and waiting for something to happen. It's really about moving and figuring out, it's like when we're teenagers and, and we have the boyfriends. And then at one point we kind of at least know what we don't like anymore. And now the next one is everything else that we still think we might like. So it's like you can go by exclusion as well in a way in life. But I think it's really following the next exciting thing in a way. And there are ways to also make sure that you kind of know that will make you happy. So in my first part of what I teach in the now, it's very important to know yourself, to know what your personal values are, for example. And they're very simple ways to find it out. And then, okay, use it as a checklist. So for me, my personal values are connection, resourcefulness, energy, authenticity, and meaning. And so when I think, okay, what's the next cool thing? Moving to Portugal for example, was one of them. I'm like, okay, that's exciting, but is that really a thing? I really like Germany, right? So why should I move? Will I be happy? Then you use your personal values as a checklist to predict future happiness in a way, to say, okay, will it give me connection to like-minded people? Totally. Like where we moved here, it's a paradise for people like me, for example. Resourcefulness. Is it a place where I'll feel resourceful? Every time I'm here, I feel like I have a lot of ideas, so check. Energy, does it give me energy? Definitely. Like seeing the ocean, I have so much more energy to create. There are ways to predict what in a way can make you happy, but the key is just to keep moving forward, because clarity only comes from action and not from sitting and hoping and waiting that someone gives it to you, because nobody's coming. Not happening.
No,
No.
totally right. Yeah. Oh, no one is coming. You have to take action now. Yeah, 100%. I totally agree with you. And I think
Yeah.
because you take these actions, like you said, yes, you maybe have a bit of a goal where you want to go, but then on your journey, there's so many opportunities which pop up and give you maybe even new directions or
Yeah.
like a new kind of like mission, or sometimes you even go in another direction. You can never really tell, but I think it is very positive, really. Like you don't have to know everything, like what's happening next. As long as you're moving forward, going those little steps, the rest will kind of come.
And one thing comes to mind. In the past, our grandparents, so it's cool to change. It's actually very cool to change today. We're very lucky to live in a moment in history where it's totally okay to change and completely pivot, right? So we have that permission. Think of our grandparents, I don't know, like of the generations before. You were a carpenter for life. Changing meant disappointing your family. What's wrong with you, right? So you're a doctor, you decide a path and you go that path until you die. That's how our grandparents used to live their lives. There was no other option, there was no other choice. And today we can totally pivot and it's actually okay. So it's fine. We have so many opportunities, right? So you and I are now also on this journey of social media, and that's such an opportunity. And it's an amazing time I think, to be alive, because we
Yeah, I
have the
totally agree.
permission to chase those different goals, whatever they are, or to not chase them at all. But if we want, the opportunities are infinite. Yeah.
And coming back to like small steps, like is there anything we can do like on a daily basis, maybe habits? Because I correct me if I'm wrong, but positive habits probably make you a little bit happier. If that is correct, like what would be those habits we could maybe do on a daily basis? I'm sure it might be different for everyone, but based on science, I can imagine
Yeah.
there are some things everyone could do, or at least test and try out.
So I have a nice compilation of science-backed habits. I don't know if you've seen it. So for anyone here that's listening, so on my 1 million happier tracker, so on that landing page, there's a little PDF, and that's a container of all the happiness habits that I've basically showed all these amazing companies. But yeah, only open the link if you got 1% happier, right? So by listening to this, I don't know if we can share the link after, but it's basically very simple. So it's setting a little intention for the day, and the intention could be, today I want to rest. It can be very simple, but having a little idea of what you want your day to look like will actually make you feel like you're progressing towards it. So a little goal for the day. And science says you don't even have to achieve it, but as long as you have a goal for yourself, that already makes you feel better. And why does that work? Because there is this little filter in our brain, the reticular activating system, which really helps us to scan the environment and find more of what we just decided we want. So if rest is the goal for the day, your brain will literally start scanning and finding opportunities for you to rest. So that's one where science says this makes you happy, setting goals. So on a bigger scale, but let's say now also in the small moment, right? So in the now. Gratitude, we all know that's a big one, but that's also how this filter of your brain activates. So when you go and do a little list also mentally of the things you're grateful for, your brain will just suddenly go and find more things to be grateful for. And so we know that that activates this positive thinking and just like scanning for more positivity, because that's not how our brain is designed naturally by default. Like our brain always scans for threats and but to protect us, right? Because our brain is made for survival, not for happiness. So that's another thing we don't learn in school. But you can reverse engineer that. You can flip that on its head by saying, okay, what is one thing I'm grateful for? Okay, my family. Oh yeah, okay, my health, the weather. Then you suddenly go into a spiral of positivity, which is the opposite of this negativity spiral that we always kind of go into naturally and don't even realize that that's not real. That's just a voice in our mind. What else? Daily connection. That is a big one. And I know we spoke about this, right? The creator economy 3.0, which we live in now, has this big problem of disconnection. We're all super disconnected, although we seem connected on our devices. So connection is a big one. Connect with a person a day, a meaningful conversation. It can be with a stranger as well, but just social connection. The longest study on happiness, over 80 years done by Harvard, really discovered that the biggest secret to happiness is just one: meaningful connections. And that is the thing. When we feel like a bit down, okay, I don't know what is wrong with me, how can I pick myself up? Just go out, just go to the bakery, meet someone and have a little chit chat. You're suddenly happier. You don't even know what happened. So these are just 3 on that PDF. I have more, I have 8. And it's really about doing them every day. Just they're backed by science, very simple. Each of these can take 1 minute or less. And it's really about doing 1% better every day, because at the end of the year, that is like, it compounds, right? And it's 37 times better. So just taking small steps every day will, as you said, like create a positive mindset, one that helps you achieve anything you want. And that's the thing, like the more you are positive in this sense, the more you can find happiness in the small things, the more you're also successful. It's not the other way around. So that's a little misconception that people have. I'll be happy when I achieve XYZ, or when I get promoted, or when I get this next big goal. But that's not true. Happiness comes before success. Just success follows happiness. And people also don't know that, or kind of forget about that as well.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure out there around success as well. And like, I think it sometimes maybe is associated success with happiness. Like for some reason, like there's a strong connection people maybe make. And that, would you say like that's a wrong idea? Like people should kind of like really detach those two.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can be happy and successful like together. You can be unsuccessful and happy. Can you be that?
Yeah.
Can you be? Now I'm just putting things out there. You can be successful and unhappy. That was very interesting. Can you be unsuccessful and happy? I've never said that out loud until now. It sounds a bit weird, right? But that's because we connect success with happiness. So if you're not successful, could you be still happy?
I think could probably happen, but it's very difficult. Why? Because what is success? Success is, so when you succeed at something is when you make something happen. And I think happy people, once they know what makes them happy, they obsess so much over it that it's impossible to be successful, because you just do that all the time. Unless making you happy is something, I don't know, that is just, it's just impossible. Because imagine my partner, for example, he loves doing woodwork in his free time, and he's successful at it. Although nobody knows, he's not, I don't know, a famous sculptor or anything. But he sits here and he says, okay, I want to create this table. And no matter what, he's happy by creating the table. And at the end, he creates the table. So he succeeded in what was creating the table, right? So it also really depends how we define success. And I think society
Mm.
today defines success as the checklist, which is get the grades, get the job, get the family, get the house, get more money, and then happiness will follow after at the end of that success checklist. But the way I define happiness, and also science backs it up, it's really, instead of just following this external, as you said, validating things, because who decides that you're successful in this checklist that I just mentioned? Someone else. It's not you. But what really makes you happy is the other checklist, the happiness checklist, which is internal, where you decide what makes you happy. And that is using your strengths, following what excites you, helping others. That is the biggest secret to happiness. When you know what makes you happy to an extent that you go and help others achieve their potential or, do things. So it's really about knowing that success only follows at the end of the happiness checklist. So of course it's a combination of both, because I got the jobs, I got the grades. I'm still excited to work with amazing companies, to do the big shiny things. But as long as I know that I'm using my strengths, it's just natural that I obsess. I can't sleep over thinking, okay, how can I make this amazing presentation for this company even more amazing? How can I leverage my strengths in a way that I can convince them even more? It's really about that. And I speak about this in my TEDx talk. When you focus, so we learn to focus on the things we're bad at, to always compensate, right? To always overcompensate so that we're good at, then we go from bad to good, and then maybe we get to great. But where happiness is, and also success, is when you focus on the things you're already good at, because only then you can be amazingly great with less effort and, of course, more happiness. I always give this example. When I worked at Google, I learned, even before I learned coding, I really wanted to be a woman in tech, as I mentioned. I loved the challenges of coding. But can you imagine, I'll never be as good as the guy or the girl who sleeps in code, who dreams in code. There are people like that. So of course he or she will be way more successful than me, way faster. Get it? So it's really about knowing what you're already good at and then double down leveraging on that. And maybe this girl guy will never be as good as me, when talking, because I can't stop. But that's really about it. So find what you're already good at and then double down on that. And success inevitably follows, because now I'm finding all these ways to inspire people, to make people happier. And I just come up with ideas naturally on how to be more successful as a result by doing the things that make me happy. Does it make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And I think you also scratch the surface on something which is probably also very internal in all of us, and that is comparing us to others. I think, honestly, as much as I don't want to compare myself with anyone, it just comes automatically. All those
Yeah.
feelings and all those thoughts, they're like streaming when I compare myself with someone else. Obviously, then I do, my thing and say, like, yeah, but, 10 years versus 1 year, or, this is a totally different person, country, whatever it is, age. And I basically talk myself out of it again. A comparison, like, how can people deal with that? Because I think it destroys a little bit people's happiness, like, if we
Yes.
compare each
Yeah.
other.
Big time. It's one of the biggest thieves of joy. You're exactly right. Comparison is our biggest epidemic right now. It's like biggest problem we have. And it comes from social media. It comes from all the information we're exposed to. So the answer is horse blinds on. Do you know that saying when you say the horse has the blinds on, so that just only they can see in front of what's in front of them? So that's my biggest secret. Just compare yourself with a previous version of yourself. We've heard this. It's really about creating before you consume other content, like other people's content. And these are the hacks. So basically having your goals and just pursuing them and knowing, okay, have I worked enough towards my goals today? And then of course go get inspiration. I like to say comparison in some cases can be helpful, because then you know what's possible, you get inspired. So when you see yourself and find yourself jealous of something or someone, say, okay, what is in there that I want to have? And then find your own version of that and use that as fuel, use that as inspiration. And I also want to mention real quick where comparison comes from. Like, why do we as humans feel this comparison so strongly in general? And like everything, and happiness is very primal as well. It comes from tribal times. When we were in tribes, we would naturally just compare ourselves because having a better, let's say, social status ensured survival. Because if you're the leader of the tribe, for sure you'll not be the last one to die starving if there is less food, right? So if you're higher in the ranks, then your survival chance is higher. So we have this intrinsic somehow thought inside of us that we have to be better than others, because then that makes us survive better, longer. It's totally irrational today, because if I'm better than you doesn't ensure I survive more. I mean, but our brains are so primal when it comes to happiness and these type of things, that just we have to really find strategies to cope with it. And that's really by knowing it's not rational, knowing that you can use it as a positive fuel, and know to say, okay, what excites me about what this person is doing. Put this person on your vision board. Say, okay, I want to have, I don't know, what this person has in my own way, my own version of it, and just go in and make it happen for yourself without indulging or spending too much time comparing. But knowing it's just normal. It's part of how our brains are designed. So set goals.
That's interesting.
Horse blights on, create before you consume in the context of social media, and really just only compare yourself with the previous version of yourself, looking, okay, how much have I achieved compared to last year, compared to last month, to last week. That's it. That's the only healthy comparison. And I think one last thing that I wanted to say here is that comes from a science of well-being. Really find a circle of people or healthy comparison points, because very often we compare ourselves to people that have a completely different background, that had completely different opportunities, it's reality. We all have different starting points. So very often I say, okay, look at one way to say to look at it is, okay, look at all the people that started where you started. Maybe from your own town, own birth town, or where you were born, city, and then look at where they are. So in a way, a healthy comparison could be, look at the people that had the same opportunities as I did, and who made the most out of them. So if you really want to compare yourself, those are the healthier comparison points, and then you will see, okay, I'm not doing that bad. And this is backed by science, the science of well-being. Laurie Santos speaks about this a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like a lot of times you need the awareness. Like, we can't sometimes, stop like the feelings and thoughts we have. But if we are aware of like why we are doing it, we can like turn it around and like try to be more positive or concentrate on something else. And I think that's probably part of like being happier a little bit as well. Awareness, I feel like, is a big part of happiness. Awareness, like you said as well, like being aware of what you want and who you are and what your values are. It's funny because I feel like it's kind of like a journey you go through. In my 20s, I would say I definitely was not very aware and conscious of like what I really wanted. I mean, I was a very, I knew I wanted fun. I had a lot of fun, for sure. I mean, I knew what I wanted. I wanted fun. No, now I can say it in like hindsight.
I love that.
But
It
I think
reminds
that,
me of my first. Yeah, can talk
yeah,
forever.
go for it.
No, that What you just said reminds me of my first interview at Adidas. I remember I was freaking out. It was an internship, and I thought, okay, what will they ask? And I asked my friends, okay, what are they going to ask me? And someone says, oh, they'll ask you for your, like, what are your strengths and your weaknesses? And so I remember Googling, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses? Like, what should I tell? And I created a list of all the things that are politically correct, that I'm a perfectionist so that I can turn it as I can work more, better. And it's not true. I mean, I didn't know myself. We don't learn, again, like school doesn't teach us how to know ourselves. And of course, we change, and maybe my strengths then were a bit different than the ones I have now, or whatever, the talking state. But the point is, we don't learn how to find our strengths. We don't even know that we should be looking for those things. And that's where awareness is a huge starting point to say, okay, who am I? And then from there say, okay, this is my point A. Now what's the point B? So we just don't know how to do all these things. And there are super simple ways. That's exactly where I specialize in what excites me. Like, very simple ways to figure out. You don't have to learn a book. You just have to ask the right questions. You have all the answers already.
Yeah. Honestly, this was so much gold, so much advice. Like, especially a reminder you just mentioned for me personally is those connections. Like, I work at home a lot. I don't get out that much. I also have children, so do you. And I obviously I'm online and I improve a lot there as well, like to make connections. But I also love, love, love in real life connections, and that is something I definitely want to work more, because that actually I know that gives me energy. Every time I just meet one person and have a nice, coffee chat, or I go to networking events and like
Yeah.
hear other people's, what they're doing and thoughts, and like it gives me so much energy, and I love that. So it was a great reminder to kind of have these daily connections, meaningful connections, as part of happiness. But then also, the goals every day have little goals. What do you want to do, even if it's resting, like you said. I really love that, because we always think about like what's on our to-do list, but having other things which are not work related is as much important as like, yeah, our work. So spending time with family or friends, like I think that we forget that. Like I sometimes forget that this is part of our happiness, and it's not all about work, work, work. So thank you so, so much. This was really great. And yeah, if people want to connect with us, just do that on LinkedIn, of course. And is there anything you want to finish our little chat, want to give something on the way for people to remember?
I really, really love the questions. I think we covered a big spectrum of things. One thing I just had in mind and wanted to share is that we are really bad at predicting what makes us happy. And one example here is, if you think of a podium, right? So the first, second, and the third place in whatever race, you would think that they are happy in this order. The first is the happiest, the second is the less happy, and then the third is the least happy. But in reality, this is not true. So the first person is obviously the happiest, but then the unhappiest is the second place, because he or she always compares themselves to the first place. I could have achieved more. I could have been the first one. Whereas the third place looks at all the people behind and says, wow, I made it on the podium. And so he's way happier than the second place. So happiness is something we really need to put some thought into, because it doesn't happen naturally. And there are simple science-based ways to do it that just take a few minutes. And all my classes are just 1 hour each. So find your strengths, your personal values, your goals, design your life for happiness. And I'm very passionate about how it's changing people's lives, because I get messages of people saying, wow, this was simpler than I thought, but really effective. So I hope this
Love
gave
that.
people a bit of hope today, and also some tools, some hacks, and I'm happy to stay in touch and help more people find their own version of fulfillment. So, because success only follows that. Thank you, Ulrike.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And go and follow Radiana. Und we stop now, and I thank everyone who joined us today, and I hope you got a lot of happiness out there. Head over to Radiana's profile. She has a happiness tracker there. If this live made you happy today, definitely make sure
Yes.
to click that link. So we can reach like 10,000, right? Your goal is 10,000 by the end of this year. And I'm sure you will smash it for sure. Thank you so much, and
Yes.
have a lovely day.
Thank
Bye.
you.